Today I'm taking a look at the Edelkrone focus module. This is an accessory that works with the HeadPlus. I purchased this to use on a number of projects, but sadly finding that it has serious difficulty maintaining any reliable focus. Every time I've tried to use it, it basically misses focus 95% of the time. And the results are far worse than just using autofocus on the camera. One of the frustrating issues that you notice right away when trying to set the module up is it does not have any adjustment for torque. Using a fairly robust metal-bodied macro lens here in this example, it applies so much torque on the lens body that it moves the entire camera all the way to the base. When it hits the stops at the end, it just keeps on pressing very hard. And if you're even slightly loose or not perfectly engaged in the teeth, it'll skip and just the teeth will almost seem like they're going to strip out. There needs to be some kind of setting where you can set it for less torque, depending on the type of lens you have. Not every lens is going to be able to handle this much torque. I understand you might have some heavier lenses that need it, but you should be able to turn it down on the lighter ones that move smoothly and don't need so much torque. Going to start by establishing a couple of stationary focus points. For the first, we will use the target that's provided with the focus module. For the second focus point, I'm just going to grab this small laser measuring tool that has some text printed on it we can use as a fixed reference point. Okay, let's pick a spot to focus on. And just to be sure, let's pick a spot right in the middle. Right here. Where we can see one of these vertical lines and that. And we'll make that our target focus. Okay. Zoom in so that we're exact. So the focus control is very jittery. Even though you can move the head module by hand and position your pose, you cannot turn the lens barrel and focus manually. You have to use the app, and the app continues to either jump too far one way or the other while you're trying to focus. It doesn't provide you a very nice way to rough it in and then fine-tune it smoothly to an exact and precise focus point. Just checking on the lens to make sure there's no backlash, and there isn't any. The lens I'm using here is a Nikon f2.8 macro. I chose this specifically because it does an exceptionally smooth and sharp focus. It's really struggling to get this precisely focused. All right, finally. All right, so this will be our first pose. All right, so the eye in professional. That'll be our second pose. All right, let's jump to our first pose. You can see it's out of focus. Actually, I'm going to record this. Jump to our second pose. You can see it's completely out of focus. I mean, it's not even close. And I'm going to cycle between these two a few times. That time is not as bad. Completely out of focus. Not as bad. All right, I'm going to stop. Go to pose 2. So it's exactly on this pose. And I'm going to stop recording. And let's zoom in. See how much it's out of focus. I mean, we're talking completely blurred. All right, so I'm going to focus it again. I'm going to set a new pose for it. So now it's between these two. This time I'm going to cycle back to the first one, leaving it zoomed in. Close, but not quite where we had it. You can see it's soft. Back to our second pose. Not even close, right? All right. Back to the first pose. What I'm going to do this time is go through the procedure for device settings, focus module calibration optimizer. Okay. Looks like it's basically checking for things like backlash in the system. So we're looking for movement and just clicking on the app, confirming if there is any movement or if there isn't. So yes, in this case. And then you confirm on the screens where you don't see any movement. Basically go through each of the steps until it's complete. And then we can go back to refocusing and continuing. Okay. So we're focused kind of on that S right now. And back we go to the first pose. Completely soft. Worse than before. Back to the second pose. Completely soft. At least as bad as before, if not worse. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to record this. Okay. I'm going to cycle between these two poses. This is after calibration. So, great idea, but it just cannot execute. And I'm actually doing this on F4. You know, I want to be able to do this on F2.8 if necessary. Quite often you want to control shallow depth of field, maybe bring a logo into focus depending on, you know, the product or type of work we're doing. Might want a specific item in focus and then go back and forth. Also in this example, eliminating all other sources of error and using just using the HeadPlus module. So the only movement we have is from position 1 to position 2 and focus. There's no slider or anything else being used. Ultimately, you need the precision in these pieces of equipment to be so good that you can do shallow depth of field do a slide move, and then come into focus exactly on the spot you want. That's really the whole purpose of having a focus module. Otherwise, you can just use autofocus on the lens. The problem with the autofocus is the lens might guess a different spot than the one you intend. So the whole idea behind investing in a focus module is to be able to have focus in a precise spot and not just in a random location that the camera decides for you. However, as you can clearly see, this does not achieve that. The focus is not accurate based on the spot you choose. And this has been a repeated problem every time I've tried using this. Every time I've tried using this focus module, I've had this problem and basically not been able to use it a single time. Unfortunately, because of all the lockdowns, didn't get a chance of actually testing it within our return period. Hopefully we can come up with some kind of solution for this. As it currently stands, this module unfortunately has not provided us any benefit at all. We would get better results not using it and just letting the camera do all the work.